I can still feel the champagne glass shattering in my hand. That was the moment I destroyed my sister's engagement party. 200 guests stared at me in horror as I stood there, bleeding, with the microphone in my other hand. My sister's fairy tale was over, and I was the one who ended it. But let me back up. 3 months earlier, Katie called me at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. My sister, my baby sister, the one I practically raised after Mom died, was crying so hard I could barely understand her. "Liz, I met someone." "Happy tears," she told me. She'd met someone wonderful, someone who saw her, really saw her. After all those years of dating losers who never appreciated her, she'd finally found her person. His name was Andrew Chen, successful businessman, owned a chain of luxury car dealerships across 3 states. Kind, generous, thoughtful, everything she'd ever wanted. "When can I meet him?" I asked, already happy for her. "This weekend? He's taking me to his lake house, but we could stop by Friday night for dinner?" I should have been thrilled. Katie deserved happiness. At 32, she'd spent her 20s focused on her career as a pediatric nurse, working double shifts, barely dating. She deserved someone who would treat her right. So why did I feel this knot in my stomach? Maybe it was because I'd been through this before. My own marriage,
Welcome
the one
back.
that nearly destroyed
Today,
me,
I want to tell
had
you about
started
the time
exactly
I traveled
like
to
this.
Thailand and
Tom had
experienced
been
something
perfect
truly
too.
magical.
Attentive,
I remember standing on the
successful,
beach.
generous. Until the day after our wedding when the mask came off, I told myself I was being paranoid. I was projecting my trauma onto Katie's happiness. Not every charming man was a monster in disguise. I needed to be supportive, not suspicious. Friday came. Katie arrived glowing, holding hands with Andrew. He was exactly what she'd described. Mid-30s, well-dressed in that effortless way that suggested old money, confident but not cocky. He brought me an expensive bottle of wine and flowers. "Katie talks about you constantly," he said, shaking my hand warmly. "The sister who raised her, practically her mother. I'm honored to finally meet you." Points for doing his homework, I thought. But something about the way he said it, the slight emphasis on practically her mother, made my skin prickle. Dinner was pleasant. Andrew told charming stories about his business, asked about my work as a high school principal, complimented my cooking. Katie couldn't stop smiling. She touched his arm constantly, looking at him like he'd hung the moon. Then, as we were clearing dessert plates, Andrew said something that made me freeze. "Katie's been working herself to exhaustion at that hospital. But don't worry, Liz. Once we're married, she won't have to work anymore. I'll take care of everything. She can finally relax. Maybe take up painting again like she used to. I'll handle all the finances. She deserves to be pampered." Katie beamed. "Isn't he amazing?" I forced a smile. "That's very generous." But my mind was racing. Red flag number 1, financial control disguised as generosity. I knew this playbook. "Actually," I said carefully, "Katie loves her work. Those kids need her." Andrew's smile didn't quite reach his eyes. "Of course. I just meant she has options now. She doesn't have to kill herself with those 12-hour shifts. She can work part-time if she wants, or volunteer. Whatever makes her happy." He squeezed Katie's hand. "I just want to give her the life she deserves." Katie looked at me almost apologetically. "I have been exhausted lately." I didn't push it. Not then, but after they left, I couldn't shake the feeling. Over the next month, I watched. I tried not to be obvious about it, but I paid attention. Andrew texted Katie constantly. "Sweet messages," he said, "just checking in, making sure she was okay." But I noticed Katie started checking her phone obsessively, looking anxious if she didn't respond immediately. "Andrew worries about me," she explained once when I mentioned it. "He just wants to make sure I'm safe." Red flag number 2, constant surveillance disguised as caring. He started joining our weekly sister dinners, always pleasant, always charming, but I noticed how he steered conversations away from Katie's work, her friends, her life before him, and how he'd subtly correct her. "The restaurant was nice, but the service was terrible," Katie said once. "Honey, the service was fine. You're just tired. You always get negative when you're tired." Katie laughed it off. "You're right. I'm probably just cranky." Red flag number 3, gaslighting, making her doubt her own perceptions. The engagement happened fast. 2 months after they met, Andrew proposed, with a ring that probably cost more than my car, at a restaurant he'd rented out entirely, with a photographer to capture every moment. Katie called me sobbing happy tears. "Say you're happy for me, Liz. Please say you're happy for me." I wanted to be. I tried to be. "Of course I am, sweetie. Congratulations. I know it's fast, but when you know, you know. Right?" "Right," I lied. The engagement party was set for 6 weeks later. Andrew's family estate, 200 guests, a orchestra, an ice sculpture, the works. "It's too much," Katie told me privately. "I wanted something small, but Andrew says his family has expectations, and he wants to show me off, show everyone how lucky he is." "Is that what you want?" I asked. She hesitated. Just for a second. "Of course, it's a lot. But Andrew handles everything. I barely have to think about it." Red flag number 4. Decisions being made without her input.
I always remember that day.
I decided to do what I
sitting on
should
the
have done
porch,
weeks ago.
watching the rain.
I hired a private
and
investigator.
thinking about everything
I felt
that
guilty,
had changed.
sneaky, like I was betraying Katie's trust. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, and I'd ignored my gut once before, with Tom. I'd ended up with a broken rib and a restraining order. I wouldn't let Katie end up the same way. The PI called me 2 weeks before the engagement party. "You need to come to my office. Now." I drove straight there, my heart pounding. The folder he handed me was thick. Court documents, police reports, restraining orders. Andrew Chen wasn't who he said he was. The luxury car dealerships? They belonged to his father. Andrew had been fired from the family business 3 years ago for embezzlement. The charges were dropped when his father paid back the money and agreed to keep Andrew away from the company. There was more. 2 previous engagements to wealthy women, both called off after their families discovered Andrew's gambling addiction. Hundreds of thousands in debt. Casinos in Vegas, Atlantic City, Monaco. But the worst part was the police report from his second fiancé. She'd called the cops when Andrew got violent after she confronted him about a secret credit card he'd opened in her name. The charges were dropped. His family paid her off, a generous settlement in exchange for her silence. I sat in that office, holding evidence that the man my sister was about to marry was a con artist with a history of financial fraud and violence, and I felt sick. I called Katie immediately. "Liz, I'm at a dress fitting. Can this wait?" "No, we need to talk." "About Andrew." Silence. Then, quietly, "What about Andrew?" I told her everything. The embezzlement, the gambling, the previous fiancés, the violence. "I have proof, Katie. Police reports, court documents. You need to see this." More silence. When she finally spoke, her voice was cold. "Did you hire someone to investigate my fiancé?" I was worried. I saw red flags. "Red flags? Or are you seeing Tom in everyone?" "Liz, I know what he did to you was terrible. But Andrew isn't Tom. You can't project your trauma onto my relationship. This isn't about Tom. This is about facts, documents, evidence. Evidence that his family had problems 3 years ago. People change, Liz. Andrew made mistakes when he was younger. His family helped him get back on track. He told me all about it. My stomach dropped. "He told you?" "Yes. He told me about his gambling problem. Past tense. He's been in recovery for 2 years. He's changed. He's a different person now." "Katie, he was violent. He hurt. An accusation that was never proven. That woman was trying to extort his family. That's why they settled. To make it go away." Andrew explained everything. He'd gotten ahead of me. Told her just enough truth, twisted just right, to inoculate her against the full story. "Please," I begged, "just postpone the wedding. Give yourself time. If he's really changed, he'll understand. The engagement party is in 2 weeks. The wedding is in 3 months. Everything is planned. Everyone is invited. I'm not canceling, because you can't let go of your own past." "Katie, I have to go. My dress fitting is starting." She hung up. I tried 3 more times over the next 2 weeks. Called, texted, showed up at her apartment with the folder of documents. She wouldn't see me, wouldn't answer. Finally, the day before the engagement party, she sent a text. "You're still invited tomorrow, if you can be supportive and happy for me." If not, please don't come. I didn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about the last thing Tom said to me before the police took him away. No one will ever believe you. Everyone thinks I'm perfect. Who's going to take your word over mine? He was right. It took me 6 months to get anyone to listen. 6 months of being isolated, gaslit, hurt. I wouldn't let Katie go through that. The engagement party was exactly as extravagant as I'd expected. Andrew's family estate was massive, overlooking a private lake, string lights everywhere, a full orchestra, champagne fountains, ice sculptures. Katie looked beautiful in a cream-colored dress, but I noticed how she kept touching Andrew's arm, looking for reassurance, how she laughed a little too hard at his jokes, how she seemed nervous. Andrew was holding court, surrounded by well-wishers, telling stories. I stood at the edge, watching, clutching my champagne glass. Then the speeches started. Andrew's father went first. Talked about family
Welcome
legacy,
back to the show.
about
Today,
Andrew's
I want to share a
redemption,
story that changed
about
everything
Katie
for
being
me.
just what
It
his son
started,
needed,
as many good stories
stable,
do, with a single
grounding,
unexpected event.
good influence. She wasn't his fiancé. She was his rehabilitation project. Then Andrew took the microphone. "I'm the luckiest man alive," he started. The crowd awed. "Katie is everything I never knew I needed. Beautiful, kind, patient." He looked at her with what I'm sure everyone else thought was love. "And the best part? She's a caretaker. That's what she does. She takes care of people. And God knows, I need taking care of." Everyone laughed. Katie blushed. "She's going to make the perfect wife, the perfect mother, and I'm going to make sure she never has to worry about anything ever again. No more exhausting hospital shifts. No more stressing about bills. I'll handle everything. She can focus on what she does best, taking care of our home, taking care of me, taking care of our future children." The crowd applauded. Katie's smile looked frozen. And I saw it, that flicker of doubt, that moment of recognition. She felt it too, the cage closing. "She's a work in progress, like we all are," Andrew continued. "But I've got a lifetime to help her become the best version of herself, to fix the little things. The trust issues from past relationships, the workaholic tendencies, the way she sometimes questions my judgment when I'm just trying to help." The champagne glass shattered in my hand. I didn't even realize I'd been squeezing it that hard. Blood dripped onto my dress. Everyone turned to look at me. I could have apologized, laughed it off, gone to clean up my hand. Instead, I walked toward Andrew. Someone tried to hand me a napkin. I waved them off. "Can I say something?" I asked. Andrew's smile tightened. "Of course, Liz. We'd love to hear from the sister." Someone handed me a microphone. I looked at Katie. She looked terrified. This was it. The moment I'd lose her, she'd never forgive me. I'd be the villain in her story forever. But maybe that was okay. Maybe being hated was a small price to pay for her safety. "I want to tell you all about Andrew Chen," I said. My voice didn't shake. "About the man Katie's about to marry." Katie stood up. "Liz, please." In 2021, Andrew was fired from his family's car dealership for embezzling $200,000. The charges were dropped when his father paid it back. Gasps from the crowd. Andrew's face went red. Those charges were false. In 2022, Andrew proposed to a woman named Jennifer Martinez. The engagement was called off when her family discovered he'd racked up $150,000 in gambling debts and tried to take out loans in her name. People were pulling out phones. Andrew's father stood up. "This is outrageous." In 2023, he proposed to another woman, Rebecca Walsh. She filed a police report when Andrew became violent after she confronted him about a secret credit card he'd opened in her name. The charges were dropped when the Chen family paid her $75,000 to stay quiet. The silence was deafening. I looked at Katie. Tears were streaming down her face. "I have all the documents," I continued. "Police reports, court filings, settlement agreements. Andrew isn't a recovering gambling addict who made youthful mistakes. He's a predator who targets successful women, tries to isolate them, control their finances, and when they resist, he gets violent. Then his family pays off his victims, and he moves on to the next target." Andrew lunged toward me. "You lying bitch!" Security guards grabbed him. Good. Now everyone could see his rage. "Katie," I said, ignoring him. You said he told you about his past, about his gambling problem. Did he tell you about Jennifer? About Rebecca? Did he mention the restraining order? The domestic violence accusations? She was shaking her head, sobbing. Did he tell you about the $300,000 he currently owes to 3 different casinos? Or about the credit check he ran on you last month? Or about the joint bank account he's been pressuring you to open before the wedding?
Welcome
That's
back.
enough,
Today,
Andrew's father
I want to
shouted.
share a story
This is
about
slander.
a moment
We'll
that
sue.
completely
Please
changed
do,
my
I
perspective.
said calmly. I have 3 lawyers ready to defend me with documented proof of everything I just said, and I'm sure Jennifer and Rebecca would love to give depositions. I turned back to Katie. I know you'll probably never forgive me for this, for ruining your party, for embarrassing you in front of everyone, and I accept that. But I couldn't let you marry him without knowing the truth. I couldn't watch you walk into the same trap I did. I love you too much. I put down the microphone. My hand was still bleeding. Someone from the catering staff appeared with a first aid kit, but I just wrapped my hand in a napkin. The party dissolved into chaos. Guests were leaving. Andrew's family was huddling. Andrew himself was screaming about lawyers and lies. Katie stood frozen in the middle of it all. I walked toward her. She looked at me with so much pain. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I'm so sorry." She didn't say anything, just turned and walked away. I left, drove home, sat in my dark living room, my bandaged hand throbbing, and wondered if I'd just made the biggest mistake of my life. Katie didn't call that night, or the next day, or the next week. Her friends texted me, horrible messages. How dare I? What kind of sister? Jealous, bitter, cruel. The wedding was called off. According to mutual friends, Katie had demanded to see the documents. Andrew tried to explain them away. His father threatened her, tried to intimidate her into keeping quiet. She'd packed her things and moved in with a friend from the hospital. A month passed. Then 2. I sent texts Katie didn't answer. Left voicemails she didn't return. I'd saved her and lost her anyway. 3 months after the engagement party, my doorbell rang at 10 p.m. It was Katie. She looked thin, tired, but there was something different in her eyes, something stronger. "Can I come in?" she asked quietly. I opened the door. We sat on my couch in silence for a long moment. "I've been going to therapy," she finally said, "trying to understand how I ended up there, how I didn't see it." "Katie, no, let me finish." She took a shaky breath. "Andrew contacted me last week, begged me to take him back, said he'd changed, said he'd never forgive himself, said he understood if I needed time, but could we just talk?" My heart sank. "Please tell me you didn't." I agreed to meet him. Coffee shop. Public place. She looked at me. He showed up with flowers. Apologies. Tears. Promised he'd go to therapy. Promised he'd be different. Promised everything would change. I felt sick. And then, Katie continued, his phone rang. He forgot to silence it. The caller ID said Sarah. He declined it, told me it was a wrong number, but I saw his face. That flash of panic. She pulled out her phone, showed me a screenshot. I hired my own PI. Sarah is his new fiancé. He proposed to her 2 weeks ago. She's a pharmacist, makes good money, has excellent credit. He's already moved on. We sat in silence. "You were right," Katie whispered. "About all of it. The control, the isolation, the financial manipulation. I didn't want to see it because I wanted so badly to be loved, to be chosen, to be the one who fixed him." "You can't fix people who don't want to be fixed," I said softly. "I know that now." She looked at me with tears in her eyes. "I'm sorry I didn't listen. Sorry I shut you out. Sorry I chose him over you. You have nothing to apologize for. He was good at what he does. Predators are. You lost so much trying to save me. Your reputation. Our relationship. Everyone thinks you're the villain." I shrugged. "Let them. I'd rather be the villain in your story than a bystander in your tragedy." Katie started crying. Real, heavy sobs. I held her while she cried for the life she'd almost had, the nightmare she'd almost walked into. "Thank you," she finally whispered. "Thank you for being brave enough to be hated. Thank you for loving me more than you loved being liked." That was 6 months ago. Katie's thriving now, back at work, happier than I've seen her in years. She's dating again, slowly, carefully. She knows the red flags now. She trusts her gut. Andrew? He married Sarah 3 months ago. I sent her the documents anonymously. She thanked me, said she'd think about it, then posted wedding photos a week later. Some people need to learn their own lessons. As for me, I'm still the villain in a lot of people's stories. Andrew's family tried to sue me for slander. My lawyer shut that down fast. Some of Katie's old friends still won't speak to me. They think I was jealous, vindictive, controlling. I don't care. Because every time I see Katie laugh, really laugh, without looking over her shoulder for approval, I know I made the right choice. Sometimes love means being the villain. Sometimes protecting someone requires becoming the person they temporarily hate. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is destroy someone's fairy tale before it becomes their nightmare. I stood up at my sister's engagement party. I grabbed that microphone. I revealed truths that destroyed her relationship, her reputation, her happy ending. And I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Because the only thing worse than being hated is being silent while someone you love walks into danger. I became the villain in her story. But maybe that's what heroes do sometimes. Maybe the truest act of love is being willing to be hated if it means keeping someone safe. 3 months ago, Katie asked me to be her maid of honor. Not for a wedding, for her commitment ceremony at the hospital, where she received an award for exceptional patient care. She wanted me standing next to her for her real achievement, not some man's idea of what her life should be. I stood there, watching her accept that award, watching her shine, and I thought about that engagement party, about the blood on my dress, about the champagne glass shattering, about 200 people watching me destroy what they thought was a love story. I don't regret a single second. Because love isn't always pretty. Sometimes it's ugly. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it means standing alone, being hated, bearing the weight of everyone's judgment. But it's worth it. Katie's worth it. And if I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't change a thing. Except maybe I'd wear gloves when holding that champagne glass.